One. Hey, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Central Texas Football Podcast. My name is Kenny Heath, coming to you live from our worldwide headquarters in Huron, Texas. Thank you to L4 Media, Sideline to Sideline, and Ranch Masters Ranch and Home Realty. And today, Terry couldn't be with us. A couple of things came up, so we got our old buddy Ryan Fox. Hey, Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Kenny. How are you? Good to be with you.
Good, good. Hey, how's everything up in Arkansas? Are you keeping up with any kind of high school sports down here? Any football?
As not as much as I would like, not as much as I'm accustomed to. We're kind of going a million miles per hour up here at Lyon College, but I'm keeping up with as much as I can. I got all the Central Texas teams starred on my Football Friday app, so I check the scores every week. But as far as watching Texas high school football, I'm not catching anywhere near as much as I would like. I've caught a little Arkansas high school football though. Um, Batesville High School up here in Arkansas, where I work, they got a story program. They got a couple state championships in their history. They got a very rich tradition, a very loyal and big fan base up here. It's Batesville is like the Texas high school equivalent of a 5A, so pretty big stadium, pretty big crowds, and it's a lot of fun. But I do miss the bright lights Friday nights in Texas for sure.
Well, we miss you being on the podcast, but we know you're doing what you went to school to do. So congrats on that. Like I said, Terry, he couldn't be with us. A couple things come up, kind of postponed the podcast. We're on a Thursday night at 9:30. I was watching Belleville Hitchcock earlier. Golly, what a great game. Let's start off with our Matt Stepp question of the week. We asked this last week. We didn't get to it. It's my fault. I got the question in late. Matt was working. So just the question basically was, any teams around the Centex area that kind of surprised you so far, an 0-3 or 3-0? And his answer was Groesbeck. Groesbeck's 3-0 right now. They've got a sophomore wide receiver, and his name is Jordan Smith. He's phenomenal. I mean, he's got D1 offers. He went off last week, and we'll talk about it, against Centerville. 6 catches for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns. 5'8", 160-pound, like water. What do they call like a water bug? Just and I agree with Groesbeck. I like Troy. Troy's 3-0. Reggie Patrick's over at Bosqueville. They're 3-0. Really haven't played a tough schedule, but it's a lot better than 1-9 what they were last year. And that's the kind of those teams. Lexington, they're 3-0. They got Case Evans, big time quarterback, probably the best 3AD quarterback in the state. I would guess. I mean, he just he's really. I've watched film. I don't know his last week game, the game before that. He's just so accurate. If he gets, if they flush him out of the pocket, he doesn't get crazy. He stays calm and just throws darts.
He's going into, is this his junior season or his senior season?
Yeah, his junior year.
Right. He's been starting there since his freshman year over there at Lexington, so no surprise that he's doing well there. As far as the Matt Stepp question goes, I got a couple answers. The team that surprises me, might not be much of a surprise. I think the surprise in this particular case comes with how quickly they've adjusted, and that's one of the teams you mentioned in Troy. This is Coach Tommy Brashear's second year there, and that's a school that traditionally runs slot T or heavy run offenses, and now they've switched to Brashear's more pass-heavy spread type offense. And it seems that they've adjusted really well. I think in 2 of their 3 games, they've scored over 50 points, and they defeated a 4A team in Hillsboro as well. So I think the surprise, it's not the surprise that Brashear's got that thing going. I think the surprise is, given the history of the type of offense that team runs, how quickly they've adjusted to this brand new scheme. And I think we saw bits and pieces of that last year. In fact, I think you and I saw bits and pieces of that in game 1 with Coach Brashear when they played at Whitney last year.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. We saw that just working game 1, and the McMurtry Reed Ketchum combo were great. Well, now they got a running back. He's a sophomore, Jaden Lucky. He went for 200 yards last week in a win over Rogers. So now they got that running game, and they're not really relying on McMurtry to go out and throw 350 yards a game. They've got a good running back to rely on.
Yeah, and then I guess the other team that surprised me, kind of on the other side of the coin, is Crawford. They're off to an 0-3 start. When's the last time we could say that about the Pirates? I haven't really, I didn't look too deeply into their schedule. I'm not sure who they played through these first three games. I know they played Hamilton last week, and that's one of the games that we'll kind of review from last week's slate of games. But I mean, when's the last time we could say that the Crawford Pirates started off 0-3? I mean, when you talk about an off year for a program like Crawford, you're looking at like 7 or 8 wins, kind of being a disappointment for a team. Well, they've already dropped their first three, so their trajectory is not looking great and not looking like anything we're used to seeing the Pirates do.
No, and they were down last year, of course. I
Right.
think they snuck in and got that fourth spot in the playoffs. And yeah, they played a Centerville team really tough.
Mm-hmm.
The 3AD1 team, Grossbeck, just barely got by, and then they got Axel this week, and probably should have previewed that game. I just we can't do all of them. We love Coach Horn over there. We love Coach Jacobs, and I think I got Axel in that game. But you're right. We're not used to seeing a Crawford team go 0-3. And some team. That Hamilton team. I saw in the Waco Trib. Coach Horn at Axel said, that's the best 3A team in the district in the area that I've seen this year. Of course, he hadn't seen all of them. He's just watching film. But losing to Hamilton, losing to Centerville is not horrible. And Anderson Shiro is a decent team. So they may not be down and out. They may have a little fight left in them.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at their district schedule. I think because I'm not sure who's in their district off the top of my head, but I mean it could be a similar thing in that situation where they can kind of get their way through that district and maybe have a chance to sneak in for that third or fourth playoff spot. If there's a team that can climb out of a hole, it's definitely Crawford. We'll just have to see if they can do it, and they're just off to a really slow start.
Yeah, they're in that district with Marlin's going to be the favorite, and then I think you got Crawford and Rosebud Lot probably fighting for that second, third spot right there. Hey, so since we're reviewing, let's go back. So Rogers 46, Troy 55.
Wow.
Now I tweeted this on the Central Texas Football Podcast. This is going to be probably the game of the week because Rogers. They're scoring about 50 points a game, but they're giving up 55. And Troy was going to score some points. So, Tyson Cisneros, the new quarterback there at Rogers, he's a kid that can throw the ball and he can run it really well. Bryce Watson was 103 for a touchdown. Then you look at Troy, they put up 55 points. McMurtry, very workmanlike, 11 for 14, 160 yards, 3 touchdown passes. He rushed for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the sophomore running back, Jaden Lucky, 28 carries, 209 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
Great shoot. I bet it was a great game to go watch, a great game to be in the stands to watch. But you got to think that both of these teams are going to have to work on their defense going forward when you get in the district.
Yeah, and that's something that with Rogers, they have that kind of Gunner style offense. Like I think their head coach was a former offensive coordinator at Gunner.
Yep, he was.
So they just have that. I don't know what you call it, kind of like a running gun style offense. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it, but it's an offense that at this point, with how long coach has been there, it's the system. All the kids have gone through it from sixth and seventh grade on up, so they know what the deal is, and they've always been able to score points, and they've always been in a lot of shootouts. So seeing that score with the Troy game kind of reminded me of a first-round playoff game that we saw at Wildcat Stadium back in 2018 when Rogers played Edgewood, and they lost 50-46. And so Rogers has never had any problem scoring points. It's just giving up a lot of points at the same time has kind of been a little bugaboo for them, and just seems to be the case this year. And when you're scoring, nearly or just over 50 points per game, and you're at 1-2, there's a defensive coordinator's kind of got to be at the hot seat at that point.
Yeah. Well, they're both teams going to have to do some work. I really still like Troy finishing second to Franklin in that district. So I think Little River's down, Rockdale, McGregor, Cameron Yo. I mean, just not 5 years ago. What hell? 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This is the district. Of course, you had Lorena, but this was the district of doom. Nobody wanted to be in the. Now it's just a one pony race. Yep. And I think Troy's the best of the rest. and they're probably going to finish second. And it's probably the same thing with Rogers. I think Lexington's the leader in the clubhouse in that district. Just through an eye test, and then Rogers is going to. They're both, I think, preseason top 10. So I think Rogers will be fine. They got Whitney this week. Whitney's defense has played pretty well. They gave up 35 points against, what turns out to be a really good Benbrook team, a 4A D2
Yeah.
that went over and beat Holiday, which was the number
Mm-hmm.
5 3A D2 team in the state. So,
yeah, Benbrook would be the favorite in that district if Glen Rose wasn't there.
yeah, they're number 1 or number 3. I think number 3 in 2A. All right, let's go down to we talked about Groesbeck earlier. Let's go over to Groesbeck. They beat Centerville 37-34. We've been talking about Trent Platt since he was probably, a sophomore when he came in for the injury quarterback, and he's just been really solid. He went for 362 yards and 4 touchdowns against Centerville. The sophomore wide receiver / running back, Jordan Smith, had 241 yards and 4 touchdowns. All of their kids, all their skill kids are undergrads. They're all young, sophomores and juniors. Platt's a senior. We don't know a whole lot about Centerville. We don't cover them, but we know they're tough. They're going to hit you in the mouth. Probably don't have the speed that Groesbeck had, especially with a kid like Jordan Smith just running away. And I watched that film, just the highlights of that game, and it reminds me of when Whitney played Groesbeck in the first round of the playoffs and beat them 14-0. And I talked to the defensive coordinator at Whitney, and I said, "What was the game plan?" He said, "The game plan was, we're not going to let you beat us deep, so throw the ball underneath, and we'll see what happens." And Groesbeck never did. They kept going deep, deep, deep. Well, you look at this game film with the Jordan Smith kid. They'll hit him on little out routes and stop routes, and he makes one guy miss, and he's gone. And so this is going to be interesting. Groesbeck going forward. I think this district is really a toss-up with Whitney and Grandview and West, Maple, Stout. I'm never going to count out Mahia making a spot. I think the question with Groesbeck is, can they win that big game? They've been one and done in the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years since Bomar's been there. They didn't make the playoffs, one of them. So stepping up and winning these big games in this district or in the playoffs is going to be key for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're kind of getting in the latter half of the last few seasons for Groesbeck. They've kind of gotten bit by the injury bug. I remember going to that first round playoff game against Whitney last year. They didn't have their starting quarterback. And then the game that you mentioned before, I think that was in 2021 when Bo Johnson was the defensive coordinator for Whitney at the time. They lost in that game. They lost their quarterback. I can't remember because I did play-by-play for that game. I can't remember if it was at the start of the second half or towards the end of the first half. It was around that time, end of second quarter, beginning of third quarter. And it's just unlucky with all the injuries, especially at the quarterback position for Groesbeck. But the one thing we know about Jerry Bomar is that he knows that program in and out. He led them to a state championship back in 1991, and Groesbeck never has a shortage of athletes. And whenever they can get, the coaching staff and the players can get, locked and interconnected, they're explosive offensively, and they've been that way so far this year. It's just the question, can they stay healthy in the latter half of the season?
So let's go West Orange Stark 35, La Vega 27. I'm not really okay. You lost if you're La Vega. It's not the Super Bowl. It's what Coach Haynes said on his show a week ago. You're fine if you lose to West Orange Stark in pre-district. I think La Vega is still the favorite. Although Conley's looking really good, I think they're still the favorite in that district. Bryson Rowland's going to do what he does, 19 carries for 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jabari Thornton, 5 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. It's fixing to get really good in that district. One of our main questions was going into the season is, can Robinson or Gatesville sneak in there and get a playoff spot? And I think they could. Loretta's playing good. They played Malakoff as tough as you would think last week. Robinson took it on the chin against Alvarado. Alvarado's
they're an offensive machine this year. Alvarado is.
So if I'm Coach, what's Coach Don Coach Hyde? If I'm Coach Hyde at La Vega, I'm sure he's pissed, but it's not the Super Bowl, and just regroup and get ready for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, just speaking of La Vega, they got a tough one this week too. They're going to be traveling over. I don't know if it's a home or away, but they'll be playing Brownwood this week,
Yeah, yeah,
and that'll be a tough matchup as well for the Pirates. Brownwood is always a stout team. I haven't kept up with them, and I'm not sure what their record is at this point in the season. But they're always going to be tough, and that's going to be a tough game. What against Brownwood, whether you're home or away, it's going to be a tough one. I don't. I remember they were in that. I don't know if they're starting district play at this time because I remember in the last few realignments that La Vega was in the same district as Brownwood. Is that a district game this season?
no. Brownwood kind of went out west, so
Right.
they're out west, and they won't be. I can't really. I'll have to look it up, but we don't cover them since they're kind of
And moved out that way.
more west, but yeah, that was that's going to be a good one. I'm trying to look it up real quick. Let me see here.
And I mean, at this point, they're familiar with each other because I think it was. I don't know if it was just one or two straight realignments. I think it was two straight because while China Spring and Stephenville and Brownwood, La Vega, that district, I think that held for two realignments if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they were there for a while. So now you've got Brownwood's with Burnett, Lampasas, Marble Falls. They kind of in Stephenville, so they kind of went a little bit south, a little bit
Yep, Southwest.
west. And so our next one, and I'm going to pull this up real quick because I want to look at their district. And we talked about it earlier, but man, I think the best kept secret in Central Texas right now is the Hamilton Bulldogs. I mean, those dudes have really they beat let's see, who did they?
They beat Crawford last week.
They beat Crawford. They knocked off Millsap early. They beat early. They knocked off Crawford. They got Clifton this week. Clifton's a little tougher. I mean, they're no gimme. They lost to Italy last week, I think, by 2 touchdowns. I think Hamilton wins that game, and we may. I don't think no.
Yeah, Hamilton's not too far off of a regional final run a couple years.
I think regional. Yeah, and they kind of. I think they surprised Axel in the second round. Didn't they beat Axel in the second round 2 years ago?
I think Axel lost to Valley Mills that year.
And that was last year. They
that
lost.
was last year. Okay, then the year before it would have been Hamilton. Yes.
Yeah. So Hamilton, and we talked about it just a while ago in the Waco trip. Craig Horn at Axel said, "Hey, Hamilton's the best team he's seen on film," and I'm sure he's talking about this area. I'm sure Marlon probably has something to say about that, and here coming up. But I think Hamilton, they've got a really good quarterback in Edwards, a good running back in Wood. They like to run the ball a lot, but they can throw it. Not a whole lot of info out there on the internet. If you look at the paper, or you can get a few stats from that, or get on Max Preps, you can see some highlights. But I'm really, really happy, really surprised, and really excited about what Hamilton's got going on. That region, I don't know who's a clear-cut favorite. Who do you? I mean, you're not following it like you have been, but I don't know who's a clear-cut favorite in 2A D1 right now to win it all. I know if you look at 3A D2, or you're going to say Gunner. If you look at 3A D1, you're going to say, well, it's going to be Columbus, Franklin, or Malakoff.
Right.
If you look at 4A D2, Carthage, Brock, probably 4A D1, Stephenville. The 2As, I don't know in D2 if Mark's the favorite. I mean, they've been kind of rusty. Whitney put it on them early. They got a close game against Maypearl, and they blew out their opponent last week.
Yeah, and then in 2A D2, the back-to-back champion Albany. I mean, I haven't kept up with their full season, but I remember back in week 1 that they took it on the chin big time. I think against Stanford. I think it was like a 52-6 loss to Stanford in week 1. I don't know how they bounced back from that loss in the last couple of weeks, but the way that they started with that, and then March started the way they lost against Whitney, but I know they were able to bounce back and get a win over Maypearl as well. So I'm not sure how Albany's bounced back, but I think you're right. I think Class 2A and both divisions are probably as wide open as we've seen in a long time, especially in 2A Division 2 and 2A Division 1, because when you look at Division 1, it's always been Refugio, probably number one, and then you had teams like Shiner up there, Hawley, and then Crawford, aside from the last couple seasons. But it just seems the playing field has kind of seemed to level a little bit, especially in 2A Division 2, because when Mart's still going to be Mart. They got a tougher district now. They're not just going to mow right through it because they'll have teams like Chilton and Bremond to go through. But I think it's undoubtedly considerably more open than it's been, at least in the last probably 5 to 10 years in both divisions.
Well, if you look at 2AD1, the number one team, they have Stanford. And I believe last year Stanford lost a close one to Toller, maybe in the semifinals. And
I think it started off close, and then Toller kind of pulled away at the end. Because I remember watching that game because that particular night I was at the Star to watch Franklin and not Franklin, Malakoff and Brock play at the Star in the semifinals.
That was a great game, man.
It was a fantastic game. So that game started at 7. So I was across the street at one of our favorite pizza joints, Cane Rosso, and for some reason, I don't know why, but that Toller Stanford game had a 5 o'clock kickoff. And so I was watching it on my phone while sitting at the restaurant waiting for my pizza, and I watched the whole thing, or probably first 3 quarters when Toller kind of started to pull away towards the end, because I don't remember being very high scoring.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Toller pulled away, but man, they got a lot of athletes over there, and I need to go back and see who all came back on the, who they got back. I think the quarterback, he's back on that team. He was really good. But if you look at it, you got Stanford, Refugio, Ganado, Hawley, Sunray, Beckville, Honeygrove, Timpson. Stanford to me is like the only one that really sticks out, but who knows who's going to
win. And then Refugio, this is their first year in a very long time without Jason Herring as well. Yes. So I'm not entirely sure how well they've adjusted. They're ranked in the top 5, so they're probably still doing just fine. Because I would be shocked if they didn't hire from within to get that head coaching spot. But yeah, I think when it comes to the drop off, quote unquote, with those top 5 teams, I think it's very similar. And I think if you probably look at the teams that are like 6 through 10, is the drop off really that drastic from what we've seen in the past, especially with the top 5 to 7 teams being like so close in competitiveness and talent. It's just at the very least from a top 10 to top 15 perspective, it's definitely more wide open than it's been.
Yep, I agree. And then if you look at Division 2, they got Mart back at number 1, Stratford. Yep. They're coming off a loss, I believe. Munster, Bremond. So you got Mart and Bremond in the same district. That's going to be fun. Chilton's not really what we thought they were going to be. They graduated quite a bit. We thought they would still be okay, but they took a couple of losses. Albany, Windhorse, Wellington, Collinsville, Lovelady, Lindsay. So, yeah, I don't know who the favorite is in D2. Or, I guess I would lean towards Stanford and D1, but D2, I guess Mart, but Mart's kind of, they took that loss early to Whitney, so people probably started doubting them. And then Maypearl took them to overtime, and I think Maypearl went for 2, and they didn't make it. And so, Mart could have been 1 and 2, but against 2, 3 AD1 teams,
it's that's 3 classifications up, so you can't really, regardless of the result, you can't really fault Mart, because they have to punch up so high because no one in their classification will play them.
Yeah, nobody wants to play them. Yeah.
Teams in 2A Division 1 don't even want to play them.
When we talked to Coach Hoffman his first year, and they were going up to Paris to play Paris Chisholm. I'm like, what? How did that happen? He's like, that's all we could get to play us. I couldn't get
anything. They went up there after that long drive against a 3A D1 private school and won. I think it was like 52-0.
Yeah.
So that's just the program that Kevin Hoffman's got, and that just goes without saying.
All right, let's look at games coming up. So let's go Conley Alvarado. I think this is going to be the game of the week. I'm going to tell you a lot about both teams. maybe not as much about Alvarado, but I think Conley is a better team than what played Grandview last week in that 38-21 win. They kind of, I'm going to steal a phrase from Matt Stepp and Terry. They kind of played with their food a little bit like a cat, muddied the waters. They finally, uh, extended the lead and won 38-21. Jamari Vincent, 224 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. And then he threw for 67 and a touchdown. Braden Forbes kind of helped. He's the Kiefer Sanford kind of Kiefer
Sibley.
Kiefer Sibley heir apparent. He played a lot last year. He was kind of held in check. Didn't have a whole lot of yards. But Conley, just the depth, the athleticism kind of pulled him through. I know Grandview, Coach Alvarado, Coach Walraven. He's got a stud over there in Cartier Collier. A really good running back in DeMarcus Belton. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, like a 43-35 type deal. A touchdown. It's going to be played there in Alvarado and Johnson County. Be a good one to go see if you're available to it. What's your thoughts on this one?
I think it's going to be a shootout. With Alvarado, I know they put up at least 50 points in every game. I remember I know they dropped 70 on a team. I can't remember who it was. I think it was back in week 2. They dropped 70 points. And then Connolly, they've scored like they always have, especially in pre-district play. The Cadets always get off to a hot start offensively. And I think just with the explosiveness of the offense and kind of the inconsistencies of defense, especially from Alvarado, even though they've scored a bunch of points, they've scored a lot of points, but they've given up some points as well. I think in that game I was just talking about where they scored 70, I think they gave up like 40 or 50 points. So it's just, I think that in this particular situation with Connolly having a slightly better defense, that I think Alvarado's, while they're trying to figure out things defensively, I think at this point, obviously you want to get as many stops and force as many turnovers as you can, but I think they want to turn this into a shootout, or at least get off to a quick start and a big lead and kind of keep Connolly at arm's length and kind of get into a trading score situation at that point. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I like Alvarado in this one. I'm not sure if they're playing at Charles Head Stadium or in Waco, but I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think the final score line will be along the lines of like a 49-42 or 49-35 type final. But give me Alvarado in this one.
Yeah, they'll be playing in Alvarado, and I think this is a matchup of two of the most athletic, badass quarterbacks in 4A. With Mark, Jamari's not known for his throwing, but Conley don't throw the ball a whole lot. They run it a lot, and so I think Conley's giving up about 20 points a game. They score about 45 points a game. I'm gonna go with Conley in this
one. Okay. I think with the shootout scenario, it could absolutely go either way. But like you said, Cartier Collier, absolute stud. He's had the reins of that offense for the last couple of years now. It'll be a good one regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if Alvarado gets up by 2 or 3 scores early, then it's probably
they'll be able to keep him.
I don't think Conley can catch up with them just because of the offense they run. And that's another team kind of like Grossbeck, looking for that big win to hang your hat on. They beat Lago early, but they've had these 5 stars. They've had these kids that are going to Texas, to Oklahoma State, and they go about 2 rounds deep, and they can't do anything with it. So I'm looking for them to do something this year, and they're off to a good start. So hopefully they do. All right, let's go to Malakoff and Grandview. This really not the rivalry that we have seen in the past. I think Grandview's down. I know the magazine probably, I don't know if they still got them ranked in the top 10. They've had them in the top 10 the last couple of weeks. I just think Malakoff is Malakoff. I mean, Mike Jones, Jason Tennyson, Jerry and Hall, on the defensive side, Parker Poteet is a study. Caught the game-winning touchdown last week against Madisonville. I think that's a good game for them. Down to the wire against Madisonville. I think they won it 28-29, I believe. Yeah, 29-28. And then, of course, Grandview, they lost to Conley 38-21. They got a really good running back. He plays both ways, Elijah Dominguez. I haven't seen a whole lot of film on Grandview. The Cleveland paper, I guess they just don't cover them unless they're winning state championships, because I haven't seen a story come across there in a minute. I just don't think it's going to be the game that we're used to seeing. I think last year was kind of a blowout. Malakoff beat them. So I got Malakoff rolling in this one.
Yeah, there's that old joke that we've beaten like a dead horse hundreds of times, that it just seems like a guarantee that these two teams are going to play twice a year. And since 2018, they've probably played each other like 15, 20 times realistically. And it's just that, with I don't think in that time span, I don't know if Malakoff has won at Grandview yet. And throughout the times they've played, and as this little kind of new rivalry has started to cultivate a little bit, they've always been neck and neck, talent-wise, offensively, and kind of schematically, and just with size, speed. They've kind of been neck and neck. I think when you look at the way things play out this year, that Malakoff is just a step or two higher this time, and I think that's what makes the difference in this one. But then again, I don't think Malakoff has gotten a win at Zebra Stadium, but I think they do this year.
All right, let's go to a sure enough shootout. We got Lexington at Groesbeck. Lexington 3-0, Groesbeck 3-0. They both got elite quarterback play. They both got skill kids that are out of this world. Last week, K7 goes for 283 and 5 touchdowns and a win, 66-7 over Rockdale. They've got a running back in Noah Wright Harris, 142 for 2 touchdowns, and a pretty good little receiver in Weston Bayer, 125 for 2 touchdowns. And you go to Groesbeck, of course, you got Trent Platt that's been there since we were teenagers. He went for 362 and 4 touchdowns. And then they got, the buzz now is, he's kind of been anointed because Matt Steff has tweeted about him. Jordan Smith, 44 yards rushing, I think, on 4 carries. And then he went for 241 and 4 touchdowns receiving. And I think the key is for Groesbeck is they're hitting this dude underneath wide receiver screens, making one guy miss, and it's off to the races. He is a true talent. He's one of those guys. I don't know if you do this, but anytime I see like a kid on the 3A and 2A level that are getting, I think Dave Campbell's put him on the 4 or 5 star watch list, for the young kids. So I look at kids like this and like a Jaden Jackson at Franklin. Like, how would they play on a 5A team or a 6A team? Mm-hmm. I think this kid would. I think Jaden Jackson would.
Yep.
I think he's legit.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, of all the matches that we're looking at this week, like on the sheet, this one might be the toughest to call. It's a 3A D2 against a 3A D1, but with there just being a 1 division difference, I think the talent and size and depth thing is kind of still as even as you can get for being a whole division apart. But I think it's going to be a great game. And again, I think it's one of those things where it's so close. I think it's going to be a 1-score game regardless of where they play. It's one of those things where it's so close that you can't really give the home team like a 3-point advantage or anything like that. But honestly, they're both off to hot starts. But I like Lexington in this one.
I do too. Yeah,
I like Case Evans. He has. It's like we talked about before with Cartier Collier. Evans has been holding the reins of this offense since day one as a freshman, so he knows it in and out. And like you said, he is level-headed. He doesn't panic. I mean, and we've seen shades of this even when he was a freshman and sophomore. He just has the leadership and just the poise of a senior quarterback, and he's had it every single year. And then I just think that they have, although not saying that Groesbeck doesn't have anything figured out, because obviously they do with a 3-0 start. I think just Lexington's kind of more set in their ways, so they kind of have more established guys, especially Case Evans. I'll take the 3AD2 over the Division One in this one.
Yeah, and I really like this quarterback matchup, and
Yes.
I'm gonna go back to it one more time. Case Evans, if you watch his film and you watch his reaction of a play, you couldn't tell if his receiver dropped the ball, if he threw the ball 10 yards over his head, or he threw a touchdown pass. Calm, cool. Then you look at Grossbeck. When I think of Trent Platt, I think just a go-getter, like a I'll eat nails type of kid just to get a W. He's tough. He's not real big. He throws for a ton of yards because he's got a really good kid to throw to. I'm kind of like you. I don't know that the defense is going to get a stop in this game. I think it's the last team with the football that's probably going to win it. I may be wrong. It may be a 17-14 game, but I really think that it's going to be kind of like last week, what Troy and Rogers was, just kind of a barn burner. And I got Lexington just, that one touchdown ahead, maybe score late and win it. Because I just think it's going to be back and forth.
Yeah, I agree.
14,
Even if it's not, even like you said, even if it's not like a shootout, I think regardless of how many stops are made on each side, or regardless of however many points both sides score, it'll be one possession, and I think it will be the last team with the football will be the team that either runs the clock out or gets that game-scoring touchdown. And I firmly believe that it's the Eagles this week.
All right, let's go to West and Hillsboro. West is 2-1. Hillsboro 1-2. West beat McGregor 56-14 last week. Hillsboro lost to Whitney 23-14. I'm gonna start with Hillsboro. Wrangle, that man, he is sneaky fast when it comes to running the football. I think he would be better off if he tucked it and ran more times than if he tried to extend the play and throw the ball. I don't think he's as accurate on the run as he is when he's got time. They got a wide receiver in Brown. They got a freshman running back in Lattimore. I think they may get Ezra and Emery back this week or next week. It would be nice if they got him back this week to go against West. He's been out the whole season. I don't know why, but the people I've talked to said that he just started practicing the week of Whitney. So, this kid, the Ezra and Emery kid, was the defensive newcomer of the year as a sophomore. He had like 200 and some tackles. Last year, he rushed for, I don't know, every time I saw him touch the ball, I thought he was going to take it to the house. Yeah. Really good football player. And then, of course, when I think of Hillsboro, their defensive line, Jaden Magruder, that guy's just, last week he had 4 tackles for losses and a sack. And then you look at West, they're kind of rebuilding type. They still got some kids that come through. They got the younger Crane as a quarterback. He threw for 211 and 4 touchdowns against McGregor.
They're throwing it a lot more this year. I've seen.
Yeah, they are. They kind of lost that overtime game to Robinson to start the season, and kind of looked at it and thought, Robinson's a 4AD2 school, and you kind of thought that they were going to be pretty good their second year under Coach Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, Dub Crane, that Thralling and McGregor, 211, 4 touchdowns. Kane Klisch, who was a state qualifier in the 100, so he's got speed. He went 9 for 102 and 2 touchdowns. I think Hillsboro can match their speed. I'm not saying kids on that team are going to go to state in the 100, but there's some fast kids. I saw it last week. I think Brown made one guy miss and took it 70 yards, and Whitney's got some state guys too. Man, I don't know that Hillsboro knows how to win yet. The close games, I know that they lost to Troy in the close game. They lost to Whitney in the close game. They beat McGregor by 15, 20, something like that. I think they need to learn how to win those close games. They had the ball inside Whitney's 20 like 3 or 4 times in the fourth quarter last week and just couldn't come away with any points. And to give credit to Whitney's defense, they did a tremendous job. I got West by 10 points to 2 touchdowns on this one.
Yeah, I'll take the Trojans in this one as well. I honestly don't think it's particularly close. It could be kind of a similar score that we saw in the Whitney game last week, like 9 to 12 points, like 23-14. I could see it being something like that, but quite honestly, I think West, even though they're kind of adjusting or tweaking their offense a little bit, I think they're starting to adjust to it really well, especially heading into this fourth week of the season. I think they win comfortably. I think it's more of like a 35-14 type final in this one. I'll take West.
Gotcha. All right, last one, I believe. Yeah, let's go. So kind of an upstart program in Bosqueville. Coach Reggie Patrick came over this year from China Spring, their offensive coordinator. Now they really hadn't had a tough schedule so
Yeah,
far.
so they play like Meridian and
Yeah, there's somebody. Yes,
Marlin.
they're 3-0 against Rosebud Lott, who's 2-1. They beat Dawson last week, 34-12.
Oh,
Coach Hicks has got a pretty good squad over there. I think they're going to be hell. They may give Marlin a game. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think they're kind of in the front runner for that second seed. They got a quarterback in Price Ray Brooker, 195 for 2 touchdowns. A freshman running back in Zaylen Wells, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Dawson, and a pretty good wide receiver in Carson Kalig, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's got 400 or 500 yards receiving on the season. And then you look at Bosqueville, Dax Ferris, their quarterback is kind of a dual threat guy, 64 yards passing and a touchdown, 73 yards and 2 touchdowns running. And they got a pretty good running back themselves in Cooper Wright, who went 9 carries, 238 yards and 2 touchdowns against Meridian. So this will be a good gauge for Bosqueville, kind of see where they're at. You know, it's a step up in talent for them as far as their schedule goes. So this will be an interesting one. I don't think they got enough to beat Rosebud Lott, but I think it'll be good for them.
Is who's the coach at Rosebud Lot? I think it's
Brandon Hicks.
Brandon Hicks.
Yeah.
He's still there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think just with that, I think this is like you were kind of saying just now that this is really going to be Bosqueville's first real test of the season. And I like Rosebud Lot again. Where's Rosebud Lot sitting record wise?
They're 2-1.
2-1. Okay. I like Rosebud Lot in this one. I like Brandon Hicks. He's kind of been there for a little while now. I don't know. I think this is like his 4th or maybe 5th season over there now. I think he's really gotten the chance and the time now to kind of establish the kind of program and culture that he wants at Rosebud Lot. And just with it, I'm intrigued. I think just with the talent that Bosqueville has, that they have a great chance to take this one. But it's just with their first actual test of the season, because this is a team that they're coming off. I think they've only won maybe 1 or 2 games in the past 2 seasons. Now they've eclipsed that win total just in 1 season here in 2024. But I think with it being their first real test, I'm not entirely sure what to expect for them. I think it'll be a relatively close one, maybe like a 7 to 10 point differential with the final score. But I'll take Rosebud Lot in this one.
Yeah, I'll take Rosebud. I kind of think it's going to be not that close.
Right.
Maybe a 3-score game, but it'll be good for Bosqueville going in. District play starts, I believe, here in a week or two. So.
It'll be a good measuring stick for them as they head to district play because the 3-0 record looks nice, but there's got to be some substance there, and this game will be a huge indicator of whether they're for real or not when it comes to their odds to contend in their district.
All right, I know you're not following football in Central Texas like you used to, but we're going to do some quick hits right quick. Crawford at Axtell.
Give me Axtell.
Let's go. Hamilton at Clifton. Oh, I got Axtell too.
Hamilton at Clifton. I think this will be closer than most people think. I'll take Hamilton Bulldogs on the road though.
I got Hamilton. Marlin at Hearn.
Hearn. Ooh, I'm not sure how Hearn's doing, and I haven't kept up much with Marlin either. I know that they lost by 2 or 3 scores in week 1, and then Hearn is still kind of relatively new to the 11-man scene. I know they were 6-man there for a while. Give me Marlin on the road. Maybe a little Central Texas bias there, but I'll take the Bulldogs.
I got Marlin. How about Robinson at Glenrose?
Got Glenrose comfortably.
Okay. Got you. Italy at Cayuga.
Ooh, give me the Gladiators.
I got Italy. China Spring at Springtown.
Springtown lost to Joshua, man. Now Joshua's off to a 3-0 start for maybe the second or third time in football program history. Any team that loses to Joshua, I don't know. Who's Springtown playing again? You said Lorena.
Springtown, they lost to Joshua. They beat Graham and they beat Kennedale. So they rebounded nicely.
They rebound. Okay. So it's Springtown and who? I apologize.
China Spring.
China Spring they've kind of had a shaky start too. I'll take China though. Any team that loses to Joshua, I'm sorry. I know Joshua's on the up and up right now, but any team that loses to Joshua, I can't pick them to beat China Spring. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll go China Spring. Comanche at Toller.
Ooh, oh, that's a tasty one. Give me Toller at home. I'll take Toller.
I got Toller myself. How
That's
about
gonna be a good game though.
Rogers at Whitney?
At home, I think the thing is with Rogers again. We talked about it before. They score a lot of points, but Whitney, aside from that Bembrook game, their defense has been pretty stout. At home, I think it'll be a really close game. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. Maybe not like super high scoring. I think it'll end up being like a 28-24, 28-27 type finish. But give me the Wildcats very, very narrowly at home.
I got Whitney. All right, one more. Let me find a good one. Waco La Vega at Brownwood.
Give me Brownwood at home.
All right. Here's the last one. Mahia at Tig.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
We should have previewed that one, but we didn't.
Yeah. This was a district game not too long ago between these two teams. But it's been a while because Mahia was in 3A and then they had their
4A for a little bit. Yeah.
They had their stay in 4A for a while. Now they're back down to 3A. Like back in 2013, 2014, like when I was in middle school, this was a district game and it was always close. Now I can't compare teams from 10 years ago to now. But give me Mahia. Give me Mahia on the road in this one. I'll take the Black Cats.
I'll go Tig just to go against you.
Gotcha.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you. Last second after you were, what were you doing? You were at some kind of fundraiser tonight.
So I was just doing photography, like one of the many hats that I wear out here at work. So there's this program called FEAR, which is funded by the NCAA, and they teach student athletes about gambling addictions, how to prevent them, and if you fall into it, what the consequences are, and what the results can be, and how to prevent yourself from falling into that hole, whether it's from sports gambling or casino, sports books, whatever. And they came and talked to our student athletes. They talk with the women teams first at 7, and then the men's teams at 8. And I was just in there with the camera getting pictures. The speaker Jason over there at Fear, really great guy. He is a former gambling addict, but he hasn't made a bet in 12 years, and now he talks about his experiences with sports betting and how it affected him and how to prevent other people from falling into that same hole he did. So it was just basically a seminar for all the student athletes because it's really becoming sports gambling. It's with staff, students, and everything at the NCAA level. You're not allowed to gamble on any NCAA events, but you're not allowed to any sport that the NCAA sanctions and has a championship on. You can't bet, even at the professional level. So say NCAA has their track and field championships. You can't bet on professional track and field, football, baseball, none of that. The only ones that you can bet on legally without having precautions from the NCAA are like MMA, boxing, and just like mixing, stuff like that, jiu-jitsu and karate and stuff, combat sports, because the NCAA doesn't sanction a championship. So it's very heavy. They crack down on that, and it's becoming a lot more prevalent. Maybe not so much at the NCAA Division III level, like where Lyon College is at, but it's good to let the kids know, like, hey, even though it might not be as prevalent at this level, it's still something that you can fall into, and it can become a serious addiction that can affect your life. So I was out there taking pictures of both seminars with the men and the women. So it was a little bit of overtime, so can't complain about that.
There you go. Hey, man, it was great catching up with you. We're going to keep you on speed dial if we need
Yes,
you
sir.
again. And we want to thank L4 Media, Sideline to Sideline, and of course, Ranch Masters Home, Ranch and Home Realty for the sponsorship. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Kenny.